everybody, and welcome back to the Art Life YouTube channel. I'm Mrs. B, and I'm so happy to bring a guided drawing lesson to you today. A guided drawing lesson is a drawing task where I break down objects that we're going to draw into simple shapes, and I guide you through step by step on how to draw them so that you feel confident to draw something that you may have not felt confident to draw in the first place. Today, for our task, I've been inspired by the very cold weather we're having here in Melbourne at the moment and thought that we would draw something super cold. Not much colder than snow. So we're going to do a snowman today. Here he is. I think he's really cute. And we combine some drawing skills as well as collage skills to create something beautiful like this. So when it comes to collecting materials for this lesson, you pretty much need whatever you have. So this lesson is really adaptable to the materials that you have at home or in your classroom. I've got a few different types of drawing materials. I've got some watercolours, but the main things you're going to need is some white paper. I'm just working on A4 today. You'll also need some scissors and glue if you have it. And to help you out with drawing a tricky shape, you'll need one large bowl or something circular to trace around and one smaller one. Whoops. So they need to be two different sizes. Now, whatever you have at home is going to be awesome. For example, if you have pom-poms, these are just some paint samples from Bunnings. You could use those too. So grab what you have, set up your craft station, and we'll get started. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because the Art Life YouTube channel will bring you heaps of fun art lessons for all ages in the future. The main thing you need for your snowman to start off with is your bowls. So we're going to draw a snowman to the left of our artwork today. I've got my piece of white paper, and if you would prefer to do this with a grey lead pencil first, that might be a good idea, but I'm going to go straight ahead and use something a bit more permanent like a black texture. If you do a pencil first, I'd ask you to then trace over your work in something a bit more bold and dark. So I'm going to get my larger bowl, flip it upside down. Now the idea today is that our snowman's not in the middle of our page like this. It's actually cropped, which means that we're not going to see the whole of our circle. We're just going to see part of it. So if you like, you can start with the large bowl down the bottom, in the middle, and then just push it off to the side a bit so that some of it comes off the page. Then, I'm going to carefully trace around the circle shape. Ta-da! That is my snowman's big belly. I'm going to do the same thing. This obviously this time is going to become a head. Now I do want to have some space at the top here, so try not to take up the whole page with your bowls. You might even need to overlap it here. There we go. That becomes our snowman's head. You don't need those bowls anymore. You can set them off to the side. So that is simple step number one. Now it doesn't really look like a snowman. He could be lots of different things at the moment, so we need to turn him into a snowman. But before we do that, we're going to forget about him for a sec, and we're going to work on what might be behind him. Now, I don't have snow where I live, although it is very, very cold, which is what's inspired this artwork. But when I've gone to the snow and made a snowman, I imagine that what would be around my snowman might be some hills, some mountains with snow on them. So I'm simply just going to draw a small little hill like that, and this is going to become our ground. That means that this section here is going to become the sky. Now this is where whatever you have at home starts to dictate what your artwork looks like. For example, if all you have are crayons, you might choose to colour in the background. Now, I'm all about abstract work, so the background does not have to be blue. You could use some sort of sunsetty colours. When I'm colouring side to side. You can see left to right like this, not up and down and everywhere. I'm trying to keep the work as neat as possible. And I need to be very careful to not make my snowman colourful. Snow is white. So I need to make sure I colour around my snowman, not on him. I might swap some colours, make my sky look nice and bright and interesting. Again, if all you have is textures, you might choose to colour in with textures. Do that as neatly as you can. Or if you're lucky enough to have something like watercolours at home, you might choose to paint the background instead. That won't take very long at all. Now I'm doing sort of sunset colours, but you might choose instead to do more cool kind of colours, which would mean you might use sort of purples, blues and greens as your background colour instead. It's completely up to you. Remember, the aim isn't to make your artwork look like mine. I'm just trying to show you some steps to have a go, and then anything that you can adapt and change and make your own, it's a good idea to do that. Oh, I need to be careful here. Now, I always tell the kids in my class that workmanship is really important with art. That means we're taking time, we're taking care, and we're working really carefully. So that means that I'm trying to get all the white gaps in my sky section, not just sort of doing this and saying I'm done. For us to be super proud of our work, we need to try our hardest. Now, for those of you who have watercolours at home, I thought I'd just show you with the rest of my sky what it looks like if you were to choose to use watercolours instead. Again, I would still work side to side. This looks pretty cool because you can still see the crayon that I've done. And I still want to get all those white gaps. This is actually called a wax crayon resist, which means that if you draw with crayon and then paint over the top with water, that the wax of the crayon actually stands out and resists against the paint. And I don't know about you, but I think it looks pretty cool. Super careful here. Now, what's important if you're choosing to do watercolors, you need to make sure that whatever you drew your line with is permanent. A Sharpie is often permanent. If you were to use just a normal sort of marker, like a connector pen, this would dissolve with the water. It's not water resistant, so you would end up with a big black mushy mess. So you need to make sure if you're using watercolors, these lines are going to stay there by using a permanent marker. Cool. All right, that's step 2 done. Once the sky is completely filled, you can let that dry if you need to, and we'll move on to step number 3. I'm going to set this aside for now. We don't need it anymore. What we need now is a separate piece of paper. If you have colored paper like this, you could use this instead. But I'm going to assume that you don't have colored paper at home. So I'm going to guide you to decorate a piece of plain white paper, which we are then going to cut out and use as decoration for our snowman. Now, firstly, we need his nose. What color and shape might a snowman's nose be? If you said a triangle, an orange triangle, I think you would be right. So I've just given myself an idea of the type of shape I'm looking for. Again, just use whatever you have at home. I might use textures this time. And I'm going to colour in this orange nose as best I can. If you have some orange paper at home, you can skip this step and just use the orange paper to cut out the nose. Now you can get creative with materials as well and use a combination like I did with the background. I might do textures like this, and then I could colour in with a crayon. Doesn't really matter about staying in the lines because I'm going to cut this out. Okay, and my carrot nose. Another thing that you'll need is a scarf. Now we want to keep our snowman nice and warm because he's out in the snow and the cold. So the type of shape that you'll need for your scarf is just a nice long rectangle like that, and a second one like that. So if you draw two thick kind of rectangles like this, and then you can design them any way you want them to look. For example, you could do polka dots, that would look pretty cool. You could do love hearts on his scarf. You could do a sort of a checkered design like this. This part is up to you and your creativity, but we do need to make sure that it is filled with colour. So once you've drawn sort of a pattern or design, take some time to make sure it's filled with colour, just like the nose. Because a lot of our artwork is white because of the snow. We need everything else to be as colourful as possible so that our work can stand out and be nice and bright. I might paint this with watercolours. If you don't have watercolours, don't stress. You can use whatever you like. What you'll notice, and what I was saying before, look at that. I'm using my watercolours with a non-permanent marker. Looks pretty cool. I'm doing it on purpose this time, but you can see that the colours kind of merge and bleed and blend because this text is not permanent. It's going to dissolve a bit. Just be aware that's going to happen if you're using these materials. There we go. There's the scarf. Simple. Now I need to do a hat. We really do need to keep our snowman nice and warm. So what I'm going to do again is another rectangle like this. Then this time, if you still have the bowl available, you might choose to trace around it again to make the top of the hat. Otherwise, it's just a bit of a semicircle shape. And again, use whatever colours and materials you have. Make it as beautiful as possible. What colour should I use this time? Let me think. Think of some patterns you can use. Maybe some colours that look really nice together. Now remember, with the clothes, they need to be completely filled with colour. So again, I'm going to colour it in. Okay, so now for step number 4, now is when we need our scissors and our glue. And we're going to turn our snowman artwork into a bit of a collage by cutting and pasting. So I'm going to carefully cut these shapes out as best and neat as I can. Got my triangle nose. Got my 2 rectangles for the scarf. This is very good practice for our cutting skills. One will go there around the neck, and I'll just trim that off. And the other one will go like that, and the hat. Beautiful. Don't need that paper anymore. The hat sticks up a little bit for me, but that's completely fine for it to stick out a little bit. One thing I'd love to do with this scarf is add a bit of detail. You might know when you're wearing a scarf, a lot of them have little tassels at the bottom. So we're going to use a cutting strategy called fringing. And that means I'm going to cut tiny little straight lines. They need to be straight, they need to be close together. And it takes a lot of concentration doing this, so try not to make a mistake. You can see it's already starting to look a bit like a scarf. Ta-da! That looks pretty cool. So you can take some time now arranging our 3 cutout pieces of collage onto your snowman with some glue. Stick them down nice and tight so they don't ever fall off. A little bit long, so I'm just going to chop it off there. All right, great collaging, guys. That was step number 4. So as step number 5, the final step, we're just going to add some details. Now there's a few things that we're missing, and we can either fill that in with a texture, or if you have some other paper, you could even choose to cut out some eyes, cut out a smile, or some buttons out of some other paper or some paper that you create. I found a pom-pom at home, so I might just stick that, lots of glue, at the top of my hat there to give it a bit of a 3D look. Wonderful. Now one lucky last detail that we've forgotten is an arm, which is normally a stick or some sort of twig that sticks out here. Again, you can choose to draw that once your background is all dry, or if you would like a bit of a challenge, you could try to actually cut an arm out of paper. Alternatively, you could even head outside and maybe find a stick and glue it down to make it 3D. That would look really cool. But today I'm just going to draw. A nice long trunk and some little bits coming off, just like that, to make his stick arm. And you are done. So it's as simple as that. I really hope that you've enjoyed this simple task today and that you've been able to create something that has built your confidence in drawing and that you're super proud of.